Archangel Michael reveals, the enemy's plan against you is exposed. Beloved, stop. Right now. Whatever you were doing before you found this message, I need you to set it aside completely, because what Archangel Michael has been sent to reveal today is something the enemy desperately did not want you to know. There has been a plan against your life. A deliberate, calculated, strategic plan formed in darkness against the specific person you are and the specific calling God placed on you. And today that plan is being pulled into the light and exposed completely. Every scheme, every strategy, every assignment, every weapon that was formed in secret against your future. God is laying it all out before you today, because an exposed plan is a defeated plan. And what the enemy counted on most was that you would never see it coming. Archangel Michael says, beloved, I have been watching this plan operate against your life. I have seen it working in the background of your circumstances. In the patterns of delay and discouragement and distraction that have followed you like a shadow. In the relationships that fractured at the worst possible moments. In the opportunities that dissolved just when they seemed most certain. In the exhaustion that arrived without a natural explanation. In the doubt that surfaced every time your faith began to build momentum. None of that was random. None of it was bad luck. It was a coordinated strategy. And today it is completely and permanently exposed. Tap the like button right now if you are ready to see what has been operating against your life in the shadows. Because the moment you see it, it loses its power over you. And drop a comment below and type exposed if you receive this word that the enemy's plan against you is being brought into the light right now. Just that one word. Exposed. Because naming it is the beginning of defeating it. Why the enemy formed a plan against you specifically. Beloved, before I reveal what the plan was, I need you to understand something that is going to shift the way you see every attack that has ever come against your life. The enemy does not form elaborate plans against ordinary targets. He does not waste strategic energy on lives that pose no threat to his agenda. The existence of a coordinated plan against your life is not evidence that you are weak or cursed or somehow marked for suffering. It is evidence of exactly the opposite. It is evidence that what God placed in you is significant enough to be worth opposing. That the calling on your life is powerful enough to be worth targeting. That the impact you are designed to have is large enough to be worth trying to prevent. Archangel Michael says, beloved, the enemy studied you. He looked at what God deposited in you before you were born. He saw the gifts. He saw the calling. He saw the specific territory you were designed to impact. He saw the people whose lives were going to be changed by what flows through you. He saw the generational impact of your obedience to God. And he formed a plan. Not because you are a problem to be managed. Because you are a threat to everything he is trying to build. The plan against your life is the enemy's acknowledgement that you matter. That what God made you for is significant. That your yes to God's calling would cost him territory he does not want to lose. The attack against you is your credentials, beloved. It is the enemy's own testimony about the weight of what you carry. There are 7 specific reasons the enemy targeted you with such intensity, and understanding each one is going to permanently change the way you interpret the opposition you have faced. The first reason is your calling reaches generations. Beloved, what God designed you to carry is not just for your lifetime. The impact of your obedience ripples forward into generations that have not yet been born. And the enemy who plans in generational terms knows that stopping you is not just stopping one person. It is attempting to interrupt a generational flow of kingdom impact that God intended. Every attack against you was an attempt to cut off something that was meant to outlast you by decades and centuries. The second reason is your gift reaches the unreachable. Beloved, God specifically equipped you with gifts that can reach people and places that most others cannot reach. The specific compassion you carry. The specific way you communicate truth. The specific gift of presence or wisdom or creative expression or intercession or leadership that God placed in you. These gifts were designed for specific people who needed them specifically. And the enemy knows which people. He knows whose breakthrough is connected to your gift being fully deployed. And stopping your gift was stopping their breakthrough. The third reason is your prayers carry unusual weight. Beloved, the prayer life of the person God has specifically called and anointed carries a weight in the spirit realm that average prayer does not carry. And the enemy fears the fully developed intercessory voice of a person who is walking in their assignment. The attacks against your prayer life. The discouragement that came when prayers seemed unanswered. The exhaustion that made prayer feel like too much effort. All of it was strategic. Because a person who prays with authority is one of the most dangerous forces in the kingdom of God from the enemy's perspective. The fourth reason is your testimony is going to set people free. Beloved, the story of what you walked through and what God did in the middle of it is going to be one of the most powerful weapons against the enemy's agenda in the lives of the people who hear it. And the enemy knew that before you did. He knew what your testimony was going to do to his strategies against the people in your sphere. And so he worked very hard to prevent the testimony from being completed. Every attack was partly an attempt to write a different ending to your story than the one God intended. The fifth reason is your faith inspires other people to believe. Beloved, there are people watching your life who are using your faith as permission to have faith of their own. People who look at what you have walked through and what you have continued to believe through the difficulty and who say, if they can keep believing, so can I. The enemy knows who those people are. He knows that your faith has a multiplication effect on the faith of people around you. And stopping your faith was attempting to stop theirs. Every attack of doubt against you is also an attack against everyone whose faith is connected to yours. The sixth reason is your generosity advances the kingdom. Beloved, the resources that flow through a person who is walking in their God-given assignment are resources that advance something the enemy opposes. The giving that comes from a heart that is aligned with God's purposes funds the spread of what the enemy is trying to contain. And the financial attacks that have been part of the plan against your life were specifically designed to reduce your capacity to give. To keep you in lack. To make you focused on your own needs rather than empowered to meet others. Every financial squeeze was a strategic attempt to reduce your impact through reducing your giving. And the seventh reason the enemy targeted you is simply that God said so. Before you were born, God spoke something over your life. He declared your purpose. He decreed your calling. He established your assignment. And when God speaks in heaven, the enemy hears it. And what God declared over you was significant enough that the enemy decided it needed to be opposed. The plan against your life began not with anything you did but with what God said about you before you did anything at all. You were targeted because you were chosen. And the choosing was God's decision. And it was a good one. Beloved, right here I want you to drop a comment and type chosen and targeted, because that is exactly what you are. Chosen by God for significant purpose and targeted by the enemy because of it. Comment it below and let this community stand with you in the declaration. The 7 specific strategies the enemy used against you. Beloved Archangel Michael says he is now going to reveal the 7 specific strategies that were part of the plan against your life. And as he names each one, I want you to recognize it. Because recognition is the beginning of the end of its power over you. An exposed strategy cannot operate in the dark. And everything I am about to name is being pulled into the light permanently. The first strategy was the assignment of chronic delay. Beloved, the pattern of things taking longer than they should in your life was not natural. It was engineered. The enemy assigned a spirit of delay over your progress specifically because he knew that delay long enough would eventually produce discouragement. And discouragement long enough would eventually produce the giving up that delay alone could not produce. He could not stop what God had assigned for you. But he worked very hard to slow it down. To wear you out in the waiting. To make the promise feel so distant that you would eventually stop believing it was real. That strategy is broken today. The delay assignment over your life is cancelled. What has been held back is being released. And what is coming with a speed that is going to make the delay feel like distant history. The second strategy was the attack on your identity. Beloved, the enemy studied how God made you and then designed specific lies to contradict every true thing God said about who you are. The voice that said you are not enough. That said you are too much. That said you are the wrong person for what you sensed you were called to. That said your past disqualifies your future. That said the people around you were more capable, more anointed, more chosen than you. Every one of those voices was a specific arrow aimed at the specific truth of your God-given identity. Because a person who does not know who they are cannot walk fully in what they were made to do. The identity attack is exposed today. Every lie that was spoken over your identity is being replaced right now by the truth of what God says about who you are. You are chosen. You are called. You are equipped. You are covered. And you are exactly the right person for exactly what God assigned. The third strategy was the isolation maneuver. Beloved, the enemy knows the power of genuine community. He knows that a person walking in covenant relationship with people who strengthen and encourage and pray for them is a person who is significantly harder to defeat. And so one of his primary strategies against your life has been isolation. Manufacturing misunderstandings that damaged relationships. Engineering offense that divided what should have been unified. Creating the feeling of not belonging. Whispering that no one truly understands what you carry. Amplifying the loneliness of the difficult seasons until the wall of self-protection felt necessary for survival. The isolation maneuver is exposed today. The wall is coming down. The right people are coming into your life. And the community that God designed to walk with you through your purpose is being assembled right now. The fourth strategy was the financial squeeze. Beloved, the plan against your life included a sustained financial component. Not just ordinary financial difficulty. Strategic financial pressure designed to keep you focused on survival rather than on assignment. To keep your energy and your attention consumed with the immediate need rather than with the larger purpose. To prevent the resources from flowing that would have empowered your calling. To create a scarcity mindset that made generous giving feel impossible and therefore cut off the seed that would have produced the harvest. That financial squeeze is being broken today. The resources are being released. The channels are being opened. And the provision that the assignment requires is coming through the doors that are opening right now. The fifth strategy was the attack on your closest relationships. Beloved, the enemy knows that the relationships closest to you are the ones that have the most potential to strengthen you. And so the plan against your life specifically targeted those relationships. The marriage or the partnership or the deep friendship that was supposed to be a source of strength was targeted for friction and for misunderstanding and for the kind of sustained tension that makes the relationship a source of drain rather than a source of power. The family bond that was supposed to carry love and support was targeted for fracture. The spiritual community that was supposed to provide covering was targeted for disappointment and for betrayal that would make you reluctant to trust again. Every relational attack was strategic. And every one of them is being addressed today. The relationships that were damaged are being restored. The ones that needed to end are releasing their hold. And the new connections that are coming are being arranged by the God who builds relationships that the enemy cannot successfully target. The sixth strategy was the campaign of discouragement. Beloved, discouragement is one of the enemy's most effective and most patient strategies. He does not need you to give up immediately. He just needs you to give up eventually. And so he applied discouragement consistently and strategically over the course of your journey, timing it to arrive at the moments of greatest effort and least visible result, amplifying the silence when God seemed quiet, highlighting every gap between what was promised and what had arrived, using the testimony of your unanswered prayers as evidence that the prayers were not working, making giving up feel like the reasonable, mature, realistic conclusion to draw from the evidence available. The campaign of discouragement is exposed today. And an exposed campaign loses its power. Because now you know that the discouragement was never an honest assessment of your situation. It was a manufactured weapon. And a manufactured weapon is not truth. It is a lie dressed up as logic. And you do not have to accept it anymore. And the seventh strategy was the counterfeit provision. Beloved, one of the enemy's most sophisticated strategies is not direct opposition. It is substitution. Offering something that looks like what God promised but that comes through a different source and at a different cost. The relationship that offered connection without the depth or the safety of what God intended. The opportunity that offered advancement without the alignment of purpose. The comfort that offered relief without the healing. The shortcut that offered arrival without the preparation. And some of you have experienced the pain of accepting a counterfeit and discovering too late that what it cost was more than what it delivered. The counterfeit provision strategy is exposed today. And the real thing, the genuine version of what God has always intended for your life, is what is coming. Not the substitute. The real thing. Beloved, every single one of those 7 strategies is now exposed to the full light of heaven. And what is exposed cannot continue to operate in darkness. This is your moment of breakthrough from every one of them. I want to pause here and say something directly. This ministry exists to bring exactly this kind of word to people who have been living under strategies they did not know had names. If today you finally understood why certain things have felt the way they have felt, I want to invite you to support the work that made this word possible. Scan the QR code on your screen or use the link in the description below. $5 or $10 or $25 or $50 or $100. Whatever is in your heart. And know that your seed is going into the work of exposing more enemy strategies in more lives. How God is responding to every strategy that was formed against you. Beloved Archangel Michael says that for every strategy the enemy formed against your life, God has prepared a specific counter-response. And he wants to name each one so that you know not just what was against you but what is now moving on your behalf. For the assignment of chronic delay, God is releasing supernatural acceleration. What took years is going to begin moving in months. What moved in months is going to begin moving in weeks. The timing of the next season is going to feel different from the timing of the last one because the spirit of delay that was assigned against your progress has been broken. And what has been held back by that assignment is being released with a momentum that was built up by the very resistance it overcame. For the attack on your identity, God is releasing settled knowing. Not just intellectual knowledge of who you are. A deep settled knowing in your spirit that does not require external confirmation to feel real. A groundedness in the truth of your God-given identity that does not shake when circumstances argue against it. A quiet, unshakable certainty about who you are and whose you are that becomes the foundation from which everything you do in the next season flows. For the isolation maneuver, God is releasing divine community. The right people are being positioned around your life right now. People who carry what you need and who need what you carry. People who see what God sees when they look at you and who call it forward rather than trying to keep it contained. People who know how to hold what you carry without being overwhelmed by it. The isolation is ending, beloved. The community is coming. For the financial squeeze, God is releasing kingdom provision. Not just enough. More than enough. Provision that exceeds the immediate need and creates capacity for the assignment. Resources coming through channels that have not yet been open. Opportunities arriving that carry financial dimensions that change the equation for your household and for your calling. The squeeze is breaking, beloved. The provision is flowing. For the attack on your closest relationships, God is releasing covenant restoration. The relationships that were damaged by the enemy's strategy are being given the grace to heal. The conversations that need to happen are being arranged. The hearts that needed softening are being softened. And the relational environment of your next season is being built to be stronger and more genuinely connected than anything the enemy successfully disrupted. For the campaign of discouragement, God is releasing supernatural encouragement. Words arriving from unexpected sources that land with the precision of someone who was watching exactly what you have been carrying. Scripture that comes alive in a way it has not for a while. Moments of unexpected peace. Breakthroughs in areas that have been most resistant. And the building of an evidence base in your own experience that makes the next season of discouragement unable to gain the same traction that previous seasons did. Because you will have too much testimony to forget. And for the counterfeit provision strategy, God is releasing the genuine thing. Not another substitute. The real version of what He always intended for your life. In your relationships. In your calling. In your resources. In your community. In your joy. The genuine thing is coming. And when it arrives, you are going to know immediately that it is different from every substitute that preceded it. Because genuine things feel like coming home. And that is exactly what the next season is going to feel like. 7 declarations that defeat the exposed plan. Beloved, I want to close this message by speaking 7 declarations directly over your life. Declarations that seal the exposure of the enemy's plan and activate the counter-responses that God has prepared. Speak these in your spirit or out loud as you receive them. Because declaration in the F. Ace of an exposed enemy plan is one of the most powerful acts of spiritual warfare available to you. Declaration 1. I declare that every strategy the enemy formed against my life in secret has been brought into the full light of heaven and has lost all of its power. The delay is broken. The identity attack is silenced. The isolation is ending. The financial squeeze is releasing. The relational damage is being restored. The discouragement has no more ammunition. And the counterfeit has been removed to make room for the genuine. Every strategy is exposed and every exposed strategy is defeated. Declaration 2. I declare that I am not a victim of what was formed against me. I am a victor over it. The plan that was designed to stop me has become the evidence of why I was worth targeting. And the targeting was the enemy's own testimony about the significance of what God placed in me. I stand in that significance today. Not in pride. In the settled confidence of someone who knows that what they carry is real and significant and protected by the God who placed it there. Declaration 3. I declare that what was delayed is now accelerating. Every promise that was held back by the spirit of delay is now moving. Every door that was held shut by the enemy's strategy is now swinging open. Every connection that was held at a distance is now being positioned for the divine appointment it was always meant to be. The acceleration has begun and it is not stopping. Declaration 4. I declare that every lie the enemy spoke over my identity is replaced right now by the truth of what God says. I am chosen. I am called. I am equipped. I am covered. I am not disqualified by my history. I am not too much or not enough. I am exactly who God made me to be for exactly this moment in history. And I will no longer agree with any version of my identity that contradicts what God has declared. Declaration 5. I declare that the community God designed for my next season is assembling now. The right people are finding their way to my life. The isolation strategy of the enemy has failed completely. And the relational environment that surrounds me in the coming season is going to be so clearly right that I will look back at every relationship that broke and understand it as the necessary clearing of space for what was always supposed to be there. Declaration 6. I declare that provision is flowing into my life from every direction that God has opened. The financial assignment of the enemy is broken. The resources my calling requires are being released. The opportunities are arriving. And the generosity that flows from a life of abundance is being activated in me in a way that is going to produce a harvest I will not have room enough to contain. Declaration 7. I declare that the enemy's plan against my life has failed completely and permanently. Not temporarily delayed. Failed. What was formed against me did not succeed in stopping what God assigned. What was whispered against me did not succeed in defining who I am. What was engineered against my relationships did not succeed in permanently severing what God joined. What was targeted against my calling did not succeed in canceling what God decreed. The plan failed. The exposure is complete. And what comes next in my life is the unhindered unfolding of everything God always intended. Beginning now. Today. From this moment forward. The plan against me failed. And God's plan for me prevails. The closing word from Archangel Michael. Beloved, as we close today, I want to release the final word that Michael has been holding throughout this entire message. He says, Beloved, I was sent to expose what has been hidden. And what was hidden has been fully revealed today. Every strategy named. Every plan exposed. Every weapon identified. And for every strategy that was named, a counter-response from God was declared. The plan is defeated, beloved. Not partially. Not temporarily. Completely and permanently. He says, beloved, I want you to go from this message differently than you arrived. You arrived perhaps knowing that something had been working against you, but not knowing what. You leave today knowing exactly what it was. Named. Identified. Exposed. And defeated. That knowledge is your weapon. And knowledge that comes from God cannot be taken back by the enemy who preferred you to remain ignorant of what was operating against you. He says, beloved, do not treat this as information you received once and then forgot. Return to this message. Write down the 7 strategies that were exposed. Write down the 7 counter-responses God released. And when you feel the pressure of any one of those strategies in the coming days, call it by name. Say out loud, I know what this is. This is the assignment of delay and it is broken. This is the identity attack and it has no authority. This is the isolation maneuver and it has failed. Calling it by name is calling its bluff. And the enemy has nothing left to operate with when his strategies are no longer hidden. Go forward from this moment as someone who sees clearly. As someone who understands why the opposition came and what it was really about. As someone who knows that the attack was the enemy's testimony about the significance of what God placed in them. And as someone who has received today the full counter-response of heaven to every single strategy that was formed against their life. The plan is exposed. The plan is defeated. And what God has for your life is now unfolding without the obstruction of what was trying to prevent it. God bless you, beloved. Until next time. And before you go, would you seal this moment with a seed? $5 or 10 or 25 or 50 or 100. Whatever is in your hand right now. Scan the QR code on your screen or use the link in the description below. Give it in faith, knowing that your seed is going into the work of exposing the enemy's plans in more lives. And as you give, declare out loud, the plan against me is exposed and defeated, and what God has for me is coming. God bless you, beloved. Until next time. 7 people in the Bible whose enemy's plan was exposed and defeated. Beloved, I want to show you 7 moments in Scripture where the enemy formed a plan against a specific person and where God exposed and defeated that plan completely. Because when you see this pattern in the Word of God, you will recognize what is happening in your own life as part of the same eternal pattern of God's faithfulness. The first is Joseph. The enemy's plan against Joseph was executed through his own brothers. Sell him into slavery. Remove him from the path of the destiny God showed him in the dream. Destroy the dream by destroying the dreamer. It was a coordinated plan executed by people closest to him. But God exposed it in the end. Joseph stood before the brothers who sold him and said, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." The plan was real. The plan was brutal. And the plan failed completely. Because what the enemy uses as a weapon, God repurposes as a path. Every step the enemy took to stop Joseph was actually a step in the route that God used to fulfill what he promised. The second is Esther and Mordecai. Haman formed a detailed, specific legal plan to destroy an entire people. He got the king's seal on it. He had the date set. He had the gallows built. From every natural perspective the plan was going to succeed. But God positioned Esther for such a time as this. And when the plan was exposed to the king, it did not just fail. The very gallows Haman built for Mordecai became the gallows on which Haman himself was hung. The plan against God's people was not just defeated. It was reversed. And the reversal was so complete that what was intended for destruction became the occasion for advancement and celebration. The enemy's plans against you, beloved, are subject to the same reversal. What was built to bring you down is going to become the platform from which God elevates you. The third is Daniel in the lion's den. The plan against Daniel was formed by people who were jealous of his favor and who could find no fault in him except his devotion to God. They engineered a law specifically designed to make his faithfulness illegal. They got the king to sign it. They watched as Daniel was thrown into the den of lions. The plan looked airtight. And God shut the lions' mouths. Every single one of them. Not one tooth touched Daniel. And when he was brought out of the den and the men who had accused him were thrown in, the same lions overtook them before they even reached the floor of the den. The plan against the faithful was completely exposed and completely reversed. And Daniel's God was declared great throughout the kingdom as a result of it. The exposure of the plan against you, beloved, is going to produce a declaration of God's greatness in your story that reaches further than anything you could have arranged without the battle. The fourth is Nehemiah and the wall. The plan against Nehemiah was a coordinated multi-front attack against the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem. Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem mocked. They threatened. They tried to lure Nehemiah into a meeting designed to eliminate him. They spread false reports. They hired prophets to intimidate him. They attempted to create fear among the workers. But Nehemiah prayed and posted guards and kept building. And the wall was completed in 52 days. And when all the enemies heard about it and all the surrounding nations saw it, they were afraid and lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of God. The plan against the building failed. And the exposure of the plan's failure was itself a testimony to the nations. The opposition against what you are building, beloved, is going to fail in a way that becomes a testimony to everyone watching. The fifth is Peter in prison. The enemy's plan operating through Herod had Peter chained between two soldiers, scheduled for execution the next day. The church was praying. And in the middle of the night an angel appeared and the chains fell off and the doors opened on their own and Peter walked out. Herod could not find Peter and in his rage executed the guards and then was struck down himself. The plan to stop Peter did not just fail. The one who executed the plan suffered the very consequence he intended for Peter. And the church that had been praying was so surprised by the answer that they initially did not believe Peter was actually at the door. When God defeats the enemy's plan against his people, he defeats it so completely that even those who were praying for the rescue are shocked by how thoroughly it happened. The sixth is Paul and Silas in prison. The plan against Paul and Silas in Philippi was imprisonment with their feet in stocks. The intention was to silence them, to stop the spread of what they were carrying, to break them through physical suffering and confinement. And at midnight they sang. And the earthquake came and the chains broke and every door opened. And the jailer who was about to take his own life, believing all the prisoners had escaped, was told, "Do not harm yourself, we are all here." And he and his whole household were saved that night. The plan to silence them produced a revival instead. What was designed to contain the message caused it to spread. And the very person responsible for the imprisonment became the first recipient of the breakthrough his imprisonment was meant to prevent. What is designed to contain what you carry is going to become the very thing that causes it to spread. And the seventh is the resurrection itself. The greatest plan the enemy ever formed was the plan to end the story of Jesus at the cross. Every detail was engineered. The betrayal, the false trial, the crucifixion, the sealed tomb. The guards posted to prevent any possibility of what the disciples had been predicting. It was the most thorough execution of an enemy plan in all of history. And on the third day the tomb was empty. The plan that was designed to end the story became the centerpiece of the story. The death that was meant to be the final word became the doorway to resurrection life that is available to every human being who has ever lived. The enemy formed his most elaborate plan. He executed it flawlessly by every natural measure. And God defeated it completely. If the enemy could not stop the resurrection, beloved, he cannot stop what God has assigned for your life. The plan against you is real. And it has already failed. Beloved, before you go today, I want to give you one final opportunity to respond to everything that was released over your life through this message. The enemy's plan has been exposed. His strategies have been named. His weapons have been identified. And the counter-responses of God have been declared. What is left is for you to seal what you received with an act of faith. Scan the QR code on your screen right now or use the donation link in the description below. $5 or $10 or $25 or $50 or $100. Whatever is in your hand. And as you give, declare out loud, the plan against me is exposed. It is defeated. And what God has for me is coming without obstruction. God bless you, beloved. Until next time.